Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be walking you through my final product for this course. However, before we dive into the activities, I want to first talk about the learning theories that I use in order to drive my development. So the two learning theories that I used was behaviorism and cognitivism. And with behaviorism, what I did is that when lessons are taught in person, face to face, teachers can give verbal praise, such as good job, keep it up, keep trying. So, what I did is when I developed exit tickets or tests or even the activities, I would integrate that feedback that teachers would give verbally, but in a digital way. So, if a student got an answer wrong, it would tell them why they got it wrong. But also, if a student got an answer correct, it told them, awesome, nice job, fraction rock star, things like that. Now, for cognitivism, what I did is in my job aid, in my final job aid, in the tips and tricks, I suggested that my client use hands-on materials or allow students access to hands-on materials. And the reason why I did this is A, I know my client has access to hands-on materials, but also what makes math challenging is how abstract it is. So the purpose of integrating hands-on materials is that it provides students an avenue to make those abstract ideas concrete. And even in the activities, I did try to make it as interactive as possible. However, there's nothing that can beat doing things hands-on. So now let's talk about the purpose, the topic, the audience, the purpose, and the problem. So the topic for my unit is fractions. The audience is fourth grade students. The purpose of this is to support students in understanding fractions in a fun and effective way. And the current problem that my client had expressed to me is that there's a lack of resources. And if there are resources, it requires the teachers to pay for a membership. But also, because there's a lack of resources, this was causing the math teachers to have to develop on their own outside of contracted hours, which they were not enjoying. And then finally, the last concern that my client had expressed to me is that teachers are teaching fractions differently. So my client is teaching it one way, but then the teacher down the hall is teaching it a completely different way. So my hope is that with this unit, it can be used across the fourth grade so that there isn't an inconsistency on how students are learning and understanding fractions. So now in terms of goals and objectives, so this is a 6-week unit, and each week focuses on something different. And ultimately, my goal was to try and build on students' knowledge and starting at the very bottom and then working our way up. So we start with week 1, which is module 1, and all students are doing is understanding fractions, such as telling the difference between a whole number and a fraction, and being able to differentiate between a numerator and a denominator. Then we move on to module 2, and those goals and objectives are a little bit different, but we take it a step higher. So now that students know the difference between numerators and denominators and the difference between whole numbers and fractions, students are now starting to learn how to represent fractions on fraction bars and number lines. Then we move to module 3, where again we have different goals and objectives, and we're taking it a little bit higher. So we're building on our prior knowledge. And in module 3, students are learning how to compare fractions, both by looking at fractions visually on a number line or fraction bars, but also understanding the correct terminology that we use and the correct way we represent numbers that are greater than, less than, or equal to. Then we move on to module 4, where we keep building, and now students are learning how to add, subtract, and multiply fractions. And then we move into module 5 and 6, and I combined those two. But the purpose of module 5 and 6 is if you're a teacher, if you've ever been into a classroom, You've probably have heard students say, why do I need to learn this? Why should I care about this? That is the goal of 5 and 6. Module 5 and 6 answer that question of why. Why do you need to learn fractions? Why do you need to understand it? So what students are doing is that they are ultimately working on a project that brings everything that they learned between module 1 and 4 and putting it in a realistic setting. All right, so now we can go ahead and dive into the actual content. So this is the first thing that students will see all the time, and when they scroll down, they'll see that there are 6 different rectangles or squares, and all they have to do, the great thing is that they just have to click on the box and it takes them directly to that module. So I'll walk you through module 2 because module 1 through 4 have very similar layouts where students are learning content Monday through Wednesday, Thursday is review, Friday is test. So what students have to do is they click on this and it's just a screen that reminds students the goals and objectives of the module. So what they should be able to do by the end of it. Then when students click next, they are brought to this page. And what this is an interactive checklist. So this is integrated in every module, Monday through Wednesday. And the reason why I did this is to really allow students that opportunity to see what they are doing before they get started, but also providing this for students who may want it or need it, because what students are able to do is when they complete an assignment, they can click the check mark to represent that it's already done. And so all of these checklists were made within Storyline. Then the next thing is that students will watch a video learning a new topic, and the videos really depended. I tried using Edpuzzle as much as possible, but there were times where I created the videos on my own. It really just depended on if I thought the videos on Edpuzzle were appropriate for 4th graders. Then this is their practice, so this is their independent work. And then this is their exit ticket, and the exit ticket is dependent on what they learned that day. And so one thing that is similar with every exit ticket is question number 4, and the reason why I put this is to support teachers in figuring out how to group students, because while students are working on the activities on Canvas, the teacher is pulling small group and working with students as well. And then we enter into the last page, which is this, and I put this here just so students knew 100% they were done. Now, I do want to show one thing that you don't see on Mondays, but you see on Tuesday and Wednesdays, which is this one right here, review from yesterday. So this is only seen on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but the purpose of Ready, Set, Watch is it allows students to review from what they learned yesterday, but also check their assignments if the teacher has graded it and given it back to them. If not, then it's just a good refresher. So that is something that students see on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. All right. So now when students go to Thursday is review. And so the purpose of Thursday is just to allow students to review everything that they've learned throughout the week and feel prepared for their test. So what I did is I used math websites that were free for teachers. So all they have to do, or all the students have to do, is click on the link and then it takes them directly there. There are some activities that I created through Storyline, but there's also modules that look like this where it's just simply links. And then we move into Friday, which is just the test, and the test was made within Canvas. All right, so now I want to go ahead and take a look at module 5 and 6. So it looks really overwhelming, but basically 5 and 6 allows students to apply everything that they learned in modules 1 through 4 and apply it to a real life scenario. And so there are a total of 14 tasks, and students have the option to either complete the tasks online or complete it on paper. It's really up to them. But the teacher has a lot of freedom in terms of how they want to break this up. What I didn't want to do with my project is I didn't want to control the teacher, because every classroom runs differently. So what works for one class may not work for another. So teachers have the freedom to allow students to work at whatever pace works for them, or the teacher can break it up and say, I want you to complete tasks 1, 2, and 3 on Monday, 4, 5, and 6 on Tuesday. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how teachers want to go about this. And then the last thing that students do is that they do complete a reflection, just, reflecting on what they've learned, what they liked, and if they enjoyed the overall unit. So when I hand this over to my client, I'm not just handing over access to the Canvas course, but I'm also giving her access to the job aid, which is incredibly important because the purpose of the job aid is to support the teacher so that she can do it without my support. And so in the job aid, it talks about the learning theory, scheduling, tips and tricks, goals and objectives, assessments, learning environment, and then there is a section for her to contact me. And then she will also get access to the design document, which is very similar to the job aid. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.